Welcome to the Healthy Heart Show, where we pull back the curtain on conventional medicine and dive into the root causes of cardiovascular health. If you are concerned about high cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart attacks, stroke, or atrial fibrillation, this is the place for you. We will provide natural heart information that will help you prevent, treat, and reverse any ailment, leaving pills and procedures out of the picture. Here are your guides to holistic heart health, board-certified cardiologist and Amazon best-selling author, Dr. Jack Wolfson, and natural heart doctor, naturopathic physician, Dr. Lauren Lattanza.
Hello, Dr. Jack Wolfson here, board-certified cardiologist at Natural Heart Doctor. Welcome to another episode of the Healthy Heart Show, where we give you the best information, the best guests to help you live your best heart life. Our goal and mission here is the 100-year heart. And when we talk about the 100-year heart, we need to keep all those environmental toxins and chemicals out of our body. So we have a fantastic guest with you today. Dr. Lauren Lattanza is also my co-host on the show. Dr. Lauren, good to see you.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much. We've got an awesome guest for you today. We will be speaking with Wendy Myers, FDNP. She is the founder of MyersDetox.com and HarmonyPendant.com, which I'm dying to get my hands on. She is a heavy metal detox expert and functional diagnostic nutritionist. She's the #1 best-selling author of Limitless Energy, How to Detox Metals and End Exhaustion and Chronic Fatigue. Wendy hosts the Myers Detox podcast about all things related to detox. She's passionate about educating people on the importance of EMF and heavy metal detox to live a long, disease-free life. Welcome, Wendy.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So glad you're here. So let's just get a little bit of a background on you first and foremost. So how and why did you get into the health field?
Well, unlike a lot of people, I had my own health issues after I had a baby about 10 years ago. I just didn't feel like myself. I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. And I went to the doctor and said, figure out what's wrong with me, and did all these tests and found out at 37, I had the hormone levels of a menopausal woman, which was, I was thrilled to hear. And I had thyroid issues. I had a lot of nutritional deficiencies, and I was having a lot of anger, like fits of rage almost, and just having trouble losing weight, brain fog, just a lot of really unpleasant symptoms. But I ate a perfect diet. I ate all organic food, made it at home, took amazing supplements, worked out 6 to 8 hours a week, slept, didn't have a stressful life. And I just thought, what exactly is it that I have to do to feel good, to be healthy? And I went on Dr. Google and tried to figure out why I had low hormones. And I kept hitting on, heavy metals and chemicals, pesticides that interfere in hormones. And a light bulb went off. This is why I have low hormones. And it took a little while to get to that point, but I started researching heavy metals and chemicals. And I thought, why hadn't I ever really delved into this before when I'd been so well read about health in general? And I just got so passionate about it. I started, writing about what I was researching and learning, and founded MyersDetox.com.
One thing that kind of bothers me is you snoop around on social media and stuff like that. You're in the health and wellness space for so long, and they accuse people of being Dr. Google. And when you say Dr. Google, it's like, yeah, I am Dr. Google. I went on to Google, did some research. It took me to the medical research in the medical journals and the medical articles, the stuff that the medical doctors are not reading and researching. And I found all this incredible information. So now, yes, Dr. Google, or if I would insult someone would be insulting and say, oh, they're just a mommy blogger. Yeah, the mommy blogger went to Google, went to the original research, and actually came up with things that are actually helpful and outside of the pharmaceutical and procedure models. So I applaud you for doing that. And certainly the people that I think are some of the best in the real health space are the people that have struggled on their own, and then through their own efforts to recover, just develop such a massive amount of knowledge. And I love all the stuff that you present and everything you get into as it pertains to really this big space about detox.
Yeah, I feel like I got really lucky in the beginning, that I just happened upon the right site pretty quickly and did some heavy metals testing, and then found out I had all these different heavy metals. And I thought, how did that happen? Where did I get these metals? And I started on a program to detox them, and I started feeling better. I mean, that program included taking minerals as well, but I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that mercury was not doing my health any favors, and I needed to get it out of my body, as well as lead and thallium and cesium and uranium and arsenic and other metals that I had. And so it just made perfect sense to me that I needed to remove these for my health.
Real quick, I just want to remind all the listeners and the audience that everything we talk about on the Healthy Heart Show, it certainly all goes back to heart health and wellness. So you may hear Wendy talking about these environmental toxins and EMF and other factors that again can impact our health, and it all relates. It certainly always goes back to heart health as well. So there may be issues with weight you're struggling with, or mood, or libido, or aging, prematurely, if you will, hormonal issues, as you mentioned, Wendy. But also everything we're talking about, listeners, it can all be taken back to the heart. So anything that's causing those other factors can lead to whatever your cardiovascular ailment is.
Yeah, and I can talk specifically about the specific heavy metals and how they impact the heart and the cardiovascular system, and the exact mechanisms for that as well.
We'll get there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I want to know, so with you through your own health journey and working extensively in detox and especially in heavy metals, how did you come to find that people in general are exposed to heavy metals?
It's unfortunately in our world today, people are exposed to heavy metals and chemicals in our air, food, and water. I mean, even if you take, say, every reasonable measure to protect your environment. So you get an air filter and you get a water filter and you eat only organic food, only organic products and makeup or what have you, you're still going to have large amounts of exposures on a daily basis to heavy metals and chemicals in your air, food, and water, even if you eat organic food. So and I recommend people taking as many measures as possible to clean up their environment, but you still have past exposures, you still have current and future exposures. And so it's just toxins are ubiquitous in our environment. They're impossible to avoid. So just something you want to be aware of, reduce exposure intake as much as you can, and be on a sensible detoxification plan to get this stuff out of your body, because I've been researching this for well over 10 years now. And, heavy metals and chemicals really impact every different organ system of the body, all of our enzyme systems, our mineral metabolism, digestion, blood sugar control, brain function. They impact every different function in the body. And there are even experts like Dr. Joe Pizzorno that will go so far that he thinks that toxins and chemicals and heavy metals are the number one primary driver of disease today.
It's not a far-fetched idea. Do you find that there are foods in particular that maybe contain more heavy metals than others?
Well, there are certainly certain food groups that contain more toxins than others. I mean, certainly shellfish. I don't want to vilify fish. I think fish is a very healthy protein, very clean protein. However, I think people need to just be on a sensible detoxification plan when they are eating fish. But even if you eat animal proteins, there's pesticides and toxins and glyphosate that can concentrate in the fats of those animals as well. But plants also will accumulate toxins as well. They have, especially plants that have a lot of sulfur in them, like the cruciferous group of vegetables, those also attract toxins. So there's really, sometimes vegetarians will say, oh, I don't want to eat meat because it's toxic, but plants also have the same problem as well. So I don't want to vilify any one food group, but there are certainly some foods that we know are, probably not safe to eat because they do have a high level of toxins, like say swordfish or mackerel and things like that.
Always consider the sourcing.
I've got 4 kids, really as it pertains to the seafood, I've always been a huge seafood pusher, that seafood is the healthiest food on the planet. And I feel there's no second or third place. But as it pertains to, hopefully we can get a lot of good choices in the seafood, and maybe, as you said, swordfish, shark, halibut, some of those big fish. But even the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology kind of reversed their really decades old recommendations for women to limit tuna intake because of issues with mercury. But they rescinded that a few years back with the idea that, again, it may be an issue, but there's still so many benefits to the omega-3s and the other proteins that are found in the seafood. And I think when you really have a good amount of seafood intake and you're avoiding all the other poisons, that the seafood actually provides your body with the best nutrients to assist with healthy detoxification. So you may be taking some of these in, but you're able to get them out that much easier.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Absolutely. And that's why I don't want to vilify fish so much. But, it just, our food supply, including fish, does have toxins in them, including mercury, but they also have, in addition to mercury, cadmium and nickel and lead, especially shellfish. Can be quite toxic. So it's just, I recommend people go on a sensible detoxification plan, no matter what type of diet they eat, because unfortunately in our world, all food has some level of contaminants in it. And, mercury is certainly one concern, but there are also other metals that are in seafood as well. But I agree, I eat seafood all the time. I think seafood is one of the cleanest, healthiest proteins out there. And you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and there's different levels of contamination. So the smaller fish are probably best, like the sardines. I love sardines, and the herring and the smaller fish are ideal. They just don't live long enough to accumulate much mercury. And as good for the larger fish, they're more problematic. The more, the migratory fish, the larger, longer lived migratory fish are potentially more problematic.
What do you think about any accumulation in seafood of some of these microplastics? Because we do test people's levels, these urinary levels of the 27 different environmental toxins that we use. In particular, we use Vibrant America for their urinary testing. And for these people that come up high in BPA, I get concerned as far as where all of that is coming from.
Yeah, it's just the BPA is just everywhere. Every time you get a receipt from you go to the store and grab that receipt, you're touching plastic bottles, anything you touch, you're absorbing through your skin. How many things of plastic do you touch every day? A BPA is a plastic hardener. And so it's one of those things, again, just an example, the toxins and plastics they're just everywhere in our environment. And so we'll get into some of the protocols that I recommend that you can help to flush all these toxins out of your body.
Yeah. So once you have accumulated some of these heavy metals, how may they promote heart disease specifically? And how can they affect the heart's ability to beat properly and maybe be linked to palpitations and so on?
Yeah. So the number one problem with heart health is cadmium. So cadmium is a metal that's in cigarettes. And so my father died of, progressive heart disease and then diabetes and cancer, namely from cadmium. He smoked for 40 years. And so cadmium is also in marijuana, people smoking medical marijuana. So cadmium will accumulate in the arteries and in the heart as well. And it's kind of very hard and brittle, and it will harden the arteries and contribute to high blood pressure and heart disease in that way. And especially if people are zinc deficient, cadmium and zinc can be used in some of the same enzyme binding sites in the body. So if people are zinc deficient, say they're not eating enough animal protein that contains zinc, highly absorbable zinc, the body will be forced to retain cadmium to repair the arteries. And that makes arteries very hardened and brittle and more susceptible to high blood pressure and heart disease as well. But cadmium can also be found in, all kinds of things. It's in the air. It's from coal burning. It enters our atmosphere from coal burning. It enters our seafood supply from coal burning as well. But, that's one of the main reasons smokers die of heart disease is that cadmium in the cigarettes. And then we have cesium and thallium. So cesium is from a lot of nuclear disasters, Chernobyl, Fukushima, a lot of cesium is being released into our environment. And then thallium, which is naturally occurring in petroleum deposits, get released into our air in various ways. These two metals displace potassium in the body. So the heart is, a huge muscle. It has a lot of potassium in it. And so when you accumulate thallium and cesium in the heart muscle or other muscles, if you don't, the thallium displaces the potassium and takes its place in the enzyme binding site. So the muscle is not able to contract properly, and people will get heart palpitations, tachycardia. They'll also have muscle cramps and things like that because their muscles aren't able to function properly. And then we have the issue of mitochondrial issues when it comes to metals. So the heart muscle contains the most concentration of mitochondria. So our mitochondria are little powerhouses in the cells that make our body's energy. And so there are certain metals like arsenic, aluminum, tin, thallium, and cesium that essentially will poison enzymes that transport nutrients into the mitochondria. And so when the mitochondria don't have the nutrients they need in the Krebs cycle to make energy, you're just not going to be able to make the produce the energy you're capable of producing. And so the heart, the heart muscle just won't work as well as it should. And overall, your body won't have enough energy to power itself, power your brain, power digestion, et cetera. So heavy metals are definitely a big culprit in, poisoning the mitochondria's ability to produce energy.
Yeah, certainly as it pertains to, thallium, right? That's what cardiologists used to use to actually image the heart because it's so avidly taken up by the heart muscle tissue. So if you're going to do a stress test on someone, for example, and try and image the heart, you can actually use that radioactive isotope of thallium and get that taken up into the heart muscle and really be able to image it that way. So those are, such great points. What about, a lot of people we see that are high in gadolinium. What do you think about, again, how people get gadolinium and what are the consequences of that?
Yeah, so gadolinium is a contrasting agent that will be used in MRIs or other types of scans that are done. And, the people that are going to be ill from gadolinium are people that perhaps just have trouble with detoxification in general. The sicker someone is in general, typically their detox pathways will be compromised genetically for one reason or another. And so these people, if they have chronic fatigue or ME, or they're just chronically ill, I probably would not do a gadolinium contrast agent when you're doing, and some doctors won't do, they won't not do a gadolinium, again, they'll only do contrast with gadolinium for various types of imaging because they just won't work. The images won't show as well. But gadolinium can have a whole host of different problems. It can, some people think they get like different fiber deposits in their body from the gadolinium where they just can't excrete it. People will have pain syndromes from it. People have severe brain fog. And there's gadolinium Facebook groups on Facebook where people have incredibly debilitating symptoms from chronic fatigue or worsening of their chronic fatigue and other symptoms. And so I just think generally it's better to avoid gadolinium because it can have so many problems for people, and you just don't know if you're going to be that person that's going to have some sort of reaction to the gadolinium.
The Healthy Heart Show will be right back after we take this quick break to hear from our sponsor. Would you like to drink great tasting coffee that's also good for your heart health? Cardiology Coffee is your answer. This 5-star rated coffee is delicious. It's a gourmet coffee that begins with whole organic beans, hand-selected and carefully roasted. It's tested and certified to be free of pesticides, mold, and other toxins. Cardiology Coffee is great for your heart, and you're going to love how it tastes. Order now online at cardiologycoffee.com. Now back to the Healthy Heart Show.
Certain procedures are necessary in emergencies, but if it's not an emergency, which typically an MRI never is an emergency where you need to do an emergency MRI, try and get a second opinion, see if there's another way to do the test in another way. Can an ultrasound be done instead? Is there another way to image what they're trying to accomplish as opposed to an MRI with gadolinium? Always try and seek out another option. There may not be another option, and then you'll have to decide, but I think all of us have seen cases of gadolinium toxicity, and it's a real hard one to detox out of the body in my experience. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. People are really suffering when they get that gadolinium and they just don't have the detox pathways to have it exit the body. They really have a tough time.
Yeah, like you said, you don't know it's a problem until it's a problem.
Yeah,
Fortunate.
exactly.
So continuing on with the heart health, what are some top minerals that you take specifically for heart health? And are there ones that really stand out for you?
Yeah, I mean, certainly zinc is a big one because zinc can help push out and displace cadmium and mercury and other metals and as well. And then potassium is a huge one as well. I'm a big fan of ionic minerals. My favorite minerals are Mother Earth minerals. They're ionic minerals that are fantastic. And also the calcium, if people have calcifications in their arteries, the double ionic calcium from Mother Earth minerals, it burns up those calcifications or calcified arteries like a house on fire. It's just fantastic. I recently had some calcifications in my tissues and my soft tissues, and I took the calcium from Mother Earth minerals, and it was cleared them all up. It's unbelievable, the stuff. And the guy who invented this or founded this company, he trained with Linus Pauling. Personally, Linus Pauling picked him to teach him all of everything he knew about mineral metabolism. And so, so Mother Earth minerals are bar none. They're liquid ionic minerals. And so that's what I personally take. So those would be the top three for heart health.
Yeah, when it comes to Mother Earth, just another thing coming up. My wife and her business partner actually, they're starting a brand called Wild Mamas, and with Mother Earth in collaboration, they've put together a prenatal. And again, and my wife chose them because the quality, the integrity, and I think you're talking obviously about Stuart Hoover. Again, the formulators and the people over there, really just brilliant type people. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I love their minerals. They're fantastic. And and people don't understand, that our bodies work on minerals. We're electrical beings, and we have to have minerals for our body to work. Period. So if you don't have adequate levels of minerals, your body is just, your heart's not going to conduct electricity properly. It's not going to beat properly. So all the different millions of functions that happen in your body are relaxing your nervous system, your brain. You have to have minerals. So a lot of times people have different health issues, and they're trying to find this complex solution, this protocol, or this thing that they have to do. And I really urge people to get back to basics. They need to mineralize their body first and foremost, no matter what their health issue is, and then fix whatever other issues are remaining after they do that.
Yeah, I think one of the things too is that magnesium became such a popular supplement, and everybody thinking that every issue is magnesium. And I know in your experience, and certainly in mine, and in Dr. Lattanza, again, when you test people and you do intracellular testing on these minerals, and you see all these different deficiencies, and you start to replete them, oftentimes it's not a magnesium problem. It is a potassium. It is a magnesium. It is a manganese issue. It's a zinc issue. It's a molybdenum issue. It's something else, some real kind of, like micronutrients, something you wouldn't think of that actually is the factor.
Yeah. And I did forget to mention magnesium for heart health. Yeah, that's pretty major one. But yeah, there's so many of them. I mean, there's trace minerals as well. So it's good to just cover all your bases and do a trace mineral. I like healthy salt. That's a fantastic trace mineral powder that you can put in your water, but it's a concentrated, it's 25% minerals, where like a sea salt is 1% minerals per se. And then do your macro minerals like the Mother Earth minerals. You can take magnesium, zinc, potassium, et cetera, whatever else that you need.
What do you think about some of those fulvic and humic acid products as a source? I know obviously Mother Earth is pretty big into them.
Yeah, I love Fulvic, Humic, or Shilajit. It's similar, another name for that product. Those are fantastic products. Not everyone can tolerate them, but they are a fantastic source of minerals.
Yeah, see, me personally, in a former life, I used to love to drink a lot of scotch. And I used to love the smoky, peaty flavor of that. And you kind of get that from the Shilajit powder. When you add that to water, you get like that feeling, without the buzz, but you get the feeling.
Yeah. You can just do shots of the Shilajit. No.
So what are some of the best supplements to remove metals that may interfere in energy production?
Yeah, so silica is great. So there's a specific kind I recommend called orthosilicic acid. And so that is shown in the research to bind on to metals like arsenic, aluminum, tin, thallium, and cesium, and remove that from the body. People talk about drinking Fiji water that has silica. It's not strong enough or concentrated enough to really make the headway that we're looking for when you're wanting to detox the body. But every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. But yeah, the orthosilicic acid is key, and it's part of one of the ingredients in my Ageless AF supplement, which I specifically formulated to detox metals that interfere in energy production and mitochondrial functioning.
And you had mentioned some of the components of like salt and certain different bottles of water. Do you have like a favorite salt that you recommend? There's so many different salts out there now.
Yes, I mean, for a therapeutic mineral replacement salt, I like healthy salt. So it's called healthy salt. And so that's when I like to I put that in all of my water. But for like a nutritive salt to use for cooking, I mean, really any salt is fine. I'm not a big fan of the Himalayan salt so much, but I really like any other salt that's not bleached. Any sea salt is fine. Cool. I prefer sea salts versus land salts, like the Himalayan. Just put salt on your food.
Anything's better than table salt.
Anything's better than table salt. Just salt your food, salt it heavily, because the food and the soil is missing minerals. And there's even patents out there that are patents to reduce the minerals in various foods. It's just crazy. But overall, our food supply is drastically deficient in minerals, and then stress also further depletes minerals. So you just really need to heavily salt your food. I drink a juice every day. I drink a fresh, vegetable juice with apple juice also in it, because this is super, super concentrated in minerals. So this is a very natural way to do that as well, to replete minerals.
Very good. And so what are the best ways to assess toxicity levels? And is there maybe a quick way to assess the toxic body burden?
Quick, no. But there's a lot of different options. So I like hair mineral analysis, or HTMA, is inexpensive, non-invasive way to do that. But it's just a screening tool. It has to be read properly by someone that knows how to read them. But that's a very easy thing to do. I also give people options of doing stool and urine challenge tests as well, but they all look at different metals. So hair, urine, and stool are metals come out in different exit routes in the body. So hair, urine, and stool test really different metals out there. But there's also great tests like Quicksilver Scientific's, their blood test that they have. That's also a very good test, but it doesn't test there's no one test that tests all of the heavy metals. So if you want to get the best look at your body burden of metals, you want to do hair, urine, and stool. And so that's the best way to go about that.
Interesting. Yeah, we were actually just talking about this. So when it comes to urine, would you have to do like a 24-hour catch, or maybe a couple of days, or?
Yeah, 24 hours adequate.
Interesting. Okay. So no quick way.
No quick. There's no easy way to do that.
I had heard from somebody, and maybe there's nothing to it, maybe it's just general toxicity, but the Romberg test, is there any validity to testing levels of
I'm not familiar with that test.
Oh, okay. It's just a balance where you kind of fall off balance, but I think any level of toxicity might knock you off balance.
But there's actually a quick scan. They're like the oligo scan. It's a bioenergetic scan. That's actually a quick way and actually the Zyto scan. The Zyto scan will test all of your toxins, all of your water toxins as well, all the heavy metals. So that's probably the quickest way, and probably the most accurate way, honestly, to test for heavy metals.
What are your thoughts on people with metal amalgams? I mean, obviously they need to come out, but it's a matter of kind of how they come out and how do they come out appropriately. And as far as, is there a way to really best prove to people? Because a lot of times we test people, at least on an unprovoked urine analysis, that although they have mercury amalgams, metal amalgams, they're not really showing much in an unprovoked test.
Yes. And so the thing with everyone that has mercury fillings has to have them come out of their body. Mercury is incredibly toxic. It is harming your health, even though maybe you don't have severe symptoms right now, those metals are leaching every time you bite down, and they're getting into your brain, your body, your fat tissue, your nervous system. It's just a matter of time before you will be impacted by that metal. And so even when people do a test and say they don't have mercury coming out, that only means that their body isn't able to excrete it at that time. They still will have it in their tissues. They will still have it in their fat. Mercury is very neurophilic. It's still in there. So the question is, when people don't have metals coming out, that's a sign, that's a problem. That's a sign their body can't excrete it. They don't have the energy to excrete it. Maybe they have a genetic issue. They're not able to excrete it. Maybe they don't have the nutrients they need to escort that metal out of the body. So when I do tests, I want to see tons of metals coming out. That means that person is really healthy and they have the ability to detox that. When people have a no-show, they don't have any metals coming out, that's when they're in trouble, when they're just not able to excrete it. But what happens is usually initial tests, people don't have metals coming out, but when they start doing a detox protocol, they start taking nutrients to detox, they start eating better, getting minerals in their body, doing infrared sauna or ionic foot baths or things of that nature. On subsequent tests, their bodies will start releasing these toxins.
Got it. What are your what kind of cookware does Wendy Myers use?
Yes. Well, I use stainless steel. So I use a very, very high grade Meyer stainless steel, very, very heavy duty. And so it's just, I think it's probably the best kind of cookware that you can use. Say after Salad Master, which is like a titanium, but those are very expensive.
So what's the brand that you recommend? Because we have Salad Master, but Salad Master is kind of a weird company, to say the least. Yeah. And and they are, and I don't want to say they're cost prohibitive, because truly, I believe, once you buy like a set of Salad Master, maybe the brand you're recommending as well, it's like you're done. You never have to buy it again. Somebody, you're getting married and someone gives you a Salad Master set, you'll have that. Most people will have that for much longer than their marriage lasts.
Exactly. I mean, I don't have the Salad Master. I wish I had, but I bought really high quality stainless steel pans. They're called Meyer. They're very heavy. I can barely lift them, but they're super heavy duty, and they're not going to be, some cheap stainless steel products. They could have nickel or lead. Oh, the nickel makes the stainless steel shiny, but cheaper stainless steel products can have lead in them. But those would be kind of very no-name off brands that no one's probably buying. But over time, kind of the cheaper brands, if you use them for years and years and years, they can get little nicks in them. Perhaps, acidic foods could leach some of the metals out of them. But, if just buy a mid to high quality stainless steel pans, and those are the best that you could probably use, the most non-toxic.
What are you telling your clients with breast implants?
Yes, get them out. I had breast implants. I had mine explanted about 4 years ago. The problem is some people are better able to withstand toxins than other people. So some people, like for me, I was very, very healthy. So they didn't really bother me. My implants didn't really bother me that much. But when I had them out, I felt a lot better. I felt like my brain works better. I'm not tired as much. I'm happier. I just felt that perhaps I had some, mood stuff going on, because my body was just constantly dealing with this influx of toxins from the breast implants. We know they have heavy metals in them. They have plastics in them. It's just another thing that your immune system and your liver and your body has to deal with on a daily basis. And it's just, women are just better off not getting them or having them explanted if they're, willing to do so.
Yeah, I remember this, from years ago, because obviously I've seen so many patients and so many of these women that have breast implants. And I remember one particular situation. Again, it's so important for all of us, all medical doctors, all healthcare practitioners have to take a very in-depth, detailed history. And the woman comes in, she has a 9-month history of palpitations, heart racing, flip-flops, skip beats. And I kind of go back and I'm like, what happened to you 9 months ago? Did you have dental work done? Did you change your diet? Someone put a cell tower behind your house? Some kind of maybe emotional or physical trauma. Did you have a surgery? Oh, you had the surgery. Oh, it was breast implants. Oh, well, maybe it was from that. And they're like, really? You think so? I'm like, well, I think it's something we should look into. 24 hours later, she calls up and she's like, I found this forum. There's 50,000 women with the same complaints. I'm flying to the Cleveland Clinic in 2 weeks to having them explanted. And then since then, but you know what I find kind of interesting, Wendy, as well, is that a lot of times when you take an intake form and you ask people to fill out all their personal information and their history, a lot of times women fail to remember that breast implants were a form of surgery. They kind of blocked that out. Like, oh yeah, I guess that was a surgical procedure.
Yeah. They had some Botox. There's a outpatient cosmetic procedure.
No, but and then obviously helping those women really get support. And I think a lot of times too is that women do feel better. It's like they always feel better when the explant takes place, but then there's a lot of other factors maybe that become uncovered or they don't get to where they need to be, again, just because of this massive amount of toxic body burden that you're speaking of.
Yeah. And when they go to their doctor, even the doctor that I went to, he was an expert in explants, and he even would not admit that women can have a reaction to breast implants or can develop autoimmunity. And the question that always came up, or what he would say, is there's no research to support that. There's no research that shows that breast implants cause autoimmunity or cancers or et cetera, any of the things that women are, complaining about in these breast implant illness groups that have tens and tens of thousands of members. So they do cause problems. They do contribute to lots of different health issues. If you can become allergic or sensitive to a blueberry or a cucumber, you can become sensitive and have reactions, and your body's trying to reject breast implants.
That's an amazing point. And and it's we don't even need any science or studies to confirm that. It's just quite as simple. And again, to the individual person, no one's ever done a study on you in particular. So all these things that, that Wendy's talking about here, regarding possible toxicity from all these things, again, how it affects you and your individual genetics, overlaid on all these epigenetic concepts and all these environmental factors and foods and, the mental and the physical and what happened to you in utero. Everybody's unique, and really we have to look at all possibilities. So thank you for bringing all this stuff up, Wendy.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, so let's talk detox. What is your favorite and the most effective detox protocol to remove heavy metals?
My favorite one are ionic foot baths. So that's what I have found is the most effective, the easiest for people to comply with, and it detoxes people the fastest and most comprehensively. And
where do you get those done? Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Yeah, so I use the AMD Ion Cleanse foot bath. It's called a Major Difference Ion Cleanse, and that's the one that I use. And I also put a disc, and it's called a Tri-Vortex disc. And I find that makes, and I work with Dr. Michael Rankin Sr. On this, and he found that these Tri-Vortex discs make the foot bath detox you about 5 times faster. So you have to do about, 5 times fewer foot baths. Most people need to do about 400 hours of foot baths. But if you use the Tri-Vortex disc, you need to do maybe, 75 hours versus the 400 hours. So it just makes it a lot more effective and super easy to do. You just put your feet in some salt water and turn it on. I find other foot baths they don't have the frequencies that are being emitted into the water. They're just not strong enough. So you'd have to do many, many, many more hours of them to get the same results. But I found those are the best. I still love infrared saunas. I love infrared saunas for so many different reasons, for heart health. Like my mom got off her high blood pressure medication after doing a sauna for 20 minutes a day. I gave her a sunlight and sauna, and she loves it. A fantastic way to detox the body and to get a passive cardiovascular workout for people that maybe are too infirm to actually do physical workout. They can still get kind of a little bit of a cardio workout with the hormetic stressful or healthful stressful effect from an infrared sauna. And, but, some people don't tolerate heat. They don't have room for a sauna. Saunas are very expensive or can be. And so, or they just don't like the sweating and the things like that. Or they're young, like young children below 7 can't use an infrared sauna. So the foot bath just makes it kind of solves all of those problems. I also love coffee enemas. Coffee enemas are a fantastic way to detox the liver, get the liver kind of decongested, get it flowing, get the bile flowing. Not the most popular detox protocol out there, especially for the guys out there. People aren't just lining up to do coffee enemas, but they are an incredibly effective protocol, especially to manage detox symptoms, which people can have when they're, years and years of perms and nail polish and chemicals and, heavy metals are exiting the body. People don't always feel like $1 million when that's happening. So doing coffee enemas can help to mitigate detox symptoms quite a bit.
Yeah, not everybody's lining up to do the coffee enemas, but talk about some good old school natural medicine.
Oh yeah, they're amazing. It takes some convincing to get people to want to do them. I have lots of articles about the many benefits because, they increase glutathione production quite a bit. That's the body's master antioxidant that we need to latch onto toxins to, politely escort them out of the body. So the coffee enemas are fantastic in that respect and to boost that glutathione production. But, they take a minute to kind of get your head around and to try. But most times when people do try them, they take to them like a fish to water and they want to keep doing them because they feel really, really good after they do them.
That's what I would say. Don't take my word for it. Just try it for yourself.
Just trust me.
All right. So before our listeners find out where they can learn more about you and your work, final question is, how do you live a heart healthy life?
Well, I work very hard to have a healthy heart. Like I mentioned, my dad had, smoked for 40 years, but he developed heart disease and high blood pressure. And, he was on 10 different medications by the time he died. And he was on statins for about 10 years. And the statins eventually, he was one of the 50% of people that developed diabetes following that. And after diabetes, he developed cancer. He developed esophageal cancer, which happens primarily in smokers. And, and I watched him decline, being on the statins. I watched him eventually have to go into a home because his muscles stopped working properly because of the statins. And it was just really sad to see. And it really motivated me to want to take care of myself as much as possible. And so I exercise every day. I go out in the sun every single day. I drink fresh juices, organic food, freshly prepared food. I don't eat any processed food. And I detox, prioritize sleep. I live a very, very heart healthy life.
Wonderful.
Well, I think, the loss of those people, the loss of our relatives and close family members like that, especially a parent, really helps to, create what we are. And it's kind of like their loss or the loss of them helps to create what we are and how we can change the world and how we can get that message out there and drive our passion. Again, whether you're trying to recover yourself, personally, and how good you become, or how you're trying to help a loved one or a patient, or how you're trying to prevent what happened to a loved one from happening to you, really makes us kind of, stellar at what we do. And kind of always, one of my mentors, the late Dr. John D'Onofrio, was always about, he called himself Dr. One More Step. And it's always going, one more step to try and heal and to get better. And, people like you, Wendy, myself, Dr. Lauren, we're trying, again, we're always learning, we're always educating, always trying to upgrade our systems. And that's what we tell people, hey, listen, continue to watch our blogs and our videos, because there's new information that comes out every single day for us to be able to help. So again, thank you so much for being on the Healthy Heart Show with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on.
So please, before you go, tell listeners where they can follow your work and learn more about you and what you do.
Yes, well, you can find me on MyersDetox.com. And I just had the 400th episode of my podcast, the Myers Detox podcast. And Jack, I'd love to have you on the show. And I also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Wendy Myers.
So I would assure everyone that when you go to MyersDetox.com and you link into that podcast and you've got 400 episodes, you will get to so much value, obviously, out of all that information, all the guests. And I would love to be on your show, of course. And, really, I tell people, as we go back to like this Dr. Google thing and like, what's your degree and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I will tell you right now, listeners, that I would sooner send a patient or a client to Wendy Myers than I would any cardiologist I've ever worked with in my entire life. So, if you're in an emergency, go to an emergency room, trauma center. But when you're looking for really to find the cause of a problem and to deal with that cause and really prevent illness, reverse chronic disease, it's people like you, Wendy. So again, thank you for being on this episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the compliment.
Dr. Jack Wolfson for Dr. Lauren Lattanza, another episode of the Healthy Heart Show in the books. Stay tuned for future episodes. We will interview more amazing guests like Wendy, and subscribe to our podcast, our channel, and we will see you next time. Until then, here's to celebrating your 100-year heart.
That does it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Healthy Heart Show. Please help us get the word out by liking and subscribing to our podcast and our Facebook page, Natural Heart Doctor. Please show support for our podcast sponsor, Cardiology Coffee, your resource for organic, antioxidant-rich, mold and pesticide-free coffee shipped straight to your door. Learn more by adding @cardiologycoffee on Instagram and visiting cardiologycoffee.com. This podcast provides materials for information and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. We encourage you to contact your physician for any of the health issues discussed here.